something happened, how I react to that incident, it is under my control. But now something happened, the supplier side, how they manage also, it's important for me, right? Because my entire supply, it depends on their services. Okay, then it will impact my customers. So this is actually going as a chain. That is the reason the supply chain management is very crucial right now.
Is there any where it's going to stop?
No,
No, it's going to expand. I'll tell you how. Because this DORA Act that is coming up, that is getting enforced by Jan, is only for the BFSI sector. Okay, now it's going to be rolling out for other sectors, then it's going to expand, it's not going to stop.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the GB Show. This episode is powered by QRC Assurance and Solutions Private Limited. This episode is special for me because this is the first time ever I'm going to have two guests coming on my show. What we are going to talk about? The very first thing, data privacy. It's a talk of the town. Every organization is talking or thinking about data privacy. There are very amazing, or I'd say tough rules which organization have to set and which has regulations and the certification body has set for the organization. Every country is coming up with their privacy rules and guidelines. In India, we have DPDP Act already making noise all over. But to achieve this data privacy, what all we need to have? What role security assurance play here? How to implement the security controls? What auditors need to do? What auditees are looking forward for? What technical people need to have the control in place, and how to use that framework to implement a proper data privacy in your organization? To have discussion on this, I have with me Vamsi Krishna Maramganti. He is founder and CEO of QRC Assurance and Solutions Private Limited. And along with him, I have Ms. Kavitha Srinivasulu, who is cybersecurity and risk management expert. Let's hear them out. Hello everyone, welcome back to the GB Show. So Vamsi, Kavitha, welcome to the GB Show. Thanks for giving your time, and I think this is the first ever combo which I am doing, where I have got two industry experts, one from the business side and one from the inside industry who's doing the working on the actually on the ground, and one who's advising and making you people work right. But anyway, jokes apart. So my first question, I would like to start with you, Vamsi, and then Kavitha, you can actually add wherever you want, and when Kavitha is talking something, you can add wherever your expertise are. But we are talking about data privacy and security assurance specifically. But Vamsi, with so many regulations coming in, so many, even India, DPDPA we have, and then other regulations across the world we know. But as per you, what is the data privacy stage today, and how the landscape looks like in next decade?
See, when it comes to the data privacy, we are, frankly speaking, we are at a beginning stage only. I mean, not even beginning. We are preparing ourselves for the actual data privacy. Okay, definitely, I can see a lot of going to happen. A lot of changes going to happen. Developments going to happen towards this privacy, particular principle. Okay, if you talk about the world famous the compliances or the regulations like GDPR and CCP and etc. So the similar way, every country is coming out with their own data protection or the data privacy regulations. The similar way, India also last year made a act, but still if you see last 1 year, we are waiting for the proper implementation rules. Okay, it to come. After that, the enforcement will start. Enforcement also, there might be chances that the government provide that 2 years, 3 years, 5 years timelines to adhere to this privacy, because fundamentally it's a kind of a principles we have to build, the culture we have to build in the organizations, and as well as the every individual, because it starts from the individual, right? Because I want to be alone. That's a kind of a privacy. How to protect my data. Whether for me, I have to think my data, I'm actually sharing with someone else. what they will do. This kind of awareness supposed to come in the individual level. So when you say the next 1 decade, definitely, because just we are discussing, even the security, so many decades the security is there, still we are not achieved 100%. Still there are breaches are happening and everything. Now we have started with the privacy. So definitely it's going forward next 1 decade or 2 decades, the kind of maturity, it will come. Okay. So it's not about only the company side, even individual personals, they have to understand what is the importance of their privacy, whom they are sharing, why they are sharing. So because any privacy principles start with the rights and my responsibilities also. So next 1 decade, definitely it will grow, definitely grow, and lot of things will change also in terms of the mindset of the people and mindset of the organization, the business owners. Currently it is a very free, the data is very free to share everything, collecting any data, but definitely it will change.
So maybe I would like to bring it from here, and Kavitha, we know that there are many data breaches happening which are quite sophisticated in a way, and with this data privacy landscape which Vamsi has just mentioned, for 10 years it's going to be mandate, right? So how we can actually make sure that security assurance is happening, and how you think that for data privacy, the security assurance plays a bigger role, or how you see that overall outlook around the same?
So data privacy as a whole, we all been talking about data privacy off late. But when you take a little while ago, cybersecurity had data privacy as one of its domain. But now it's taken separately because of the breaches, as you're saying. It's increased significantly, especially after the COVID. If you take before COVID and after COVID, the kind of significance is very high. The PII, or the personally identifiable information, which was sold for 20 to 25 per data, is now has increased to $400 to $450 in the dark web.
Oh.
So that's the that's the level of personal data's importance that has increased because of the exploitation and the kind of money that predators are earning from that. But based on the number of breaches that's happening, if you take the count that as per the recent surveys, nearly 70 to 75% of the organizations are getting hit with the ransomware. Some are declared and some are not coming out. At the same time, the kind of success that the predators are reaching is around 69% as per the recent survey. So whatever security controls that are getting enabled and that is getting established is not sufficient. Why? Because the big quote or the big theme is here the data ownership. Who owns the data? Because the individual stake, I'm not part of the security team, so I don't own the data. That's the mindset that not only the individuals have, but also the senior management has. The management feels the security team is there and they'll take care of the data, and I'm not working on anything critical, so I'm not responsible. That mindset has to change. And understanding this, threat, the management have changing their mindset slowly. I wouldn't say at a big time at this point of time. They're changing slowly, but they're putting the burden on the security team. How? Setting 4 important expectations. The primary expectations is zero tolerance. I want my organizations to be zero tolerance. There shouldn't be any cyber attacks or data breaches. You have to make it zero tolerance. That's the first expectation. And the second, they say there are lots of regulations. As he said, as Mr. Vamsi said, there are lots of regulations that's coming up at a geo level. There are a lot of things coming up, but you have to ensure that we are 100% compliant. How you do, what you do is up to you. But I want it 100% compliant. That's the second expectation. And the third expectation is eradicate the vulnerabilities. So wherever the vulnerabilities are happening, we know the Microsoft also releases the report on a monthly basis. The CSA reports are coming in. There are lots of vulnerabilities evolving, but how we are going to eradicate that before it hits our environment is the third expectation. And the fourth, last but not the least, is the third parties. The level of dependencies that we have on the third parties is not small, right? We are highly dependent on the service providers for the number of applications that we are using. So how we are going to monitor them and ensure our data is not leaked or it's not exploited beyond our boundaries is another set of these important expectations are set on the security team to assure the management, yes, we are safe.
And to change this management review, how much compliance certification plays the role? Are they good really?
If compliance certifications, you see, one is the culture the organization is maintained. whether it is a privacy or whether it is a security, the compliance certification at least ensure they have a set of practices or the right implementation done. Okay, again, because most of the people ask him also, like if there is a breach happened, hey, they already got some certification. Why they got breached? The point is that you see, compliance certification. When I'm talking about the certification, it's a point in time. As on today, some third party will come, they validate everything is in place. Okay, then they identify some anything and they submit the reports. That is done. But the next second, what happens, no one knows. Most of the time, what is happened, the kind of a breaches happening, maybe they are not continue the same implementation levels across the year. That is what the continuous compliance is very, very important for the organizations.
Yeah.
Okay. Certification definitely gives the assurance to your customers or the third parties or your vendors, anybody, yes, this company following certain practices, someone is actually tested that, validated that, they're given the certificate. Okay. But after that, or before that, the implementation is always the organization responsibility to manage the same levels. This is what I suggest. I don't know. This is what my point of view.
Yeah, but that's great. Like, sometimes managements are not even looking or willing to do something, but for compliance, at least they are doing something.
Absolutely. You see, that's what. You see, what is happens here, the compliance, why it is so important. Compliance certification point of view, if you ask me, we need that certificate or the compliance certificate, or this is something required to show my customers or the vendors or my own interest. Okay, that will give me the at least assurance. Yes, we have certain practices in place in that organization. That kind of assurance will be given by this, certification, by doing the certifications.
Yeah, just to add on to your point, the organization do comply and they do these certifications and all that, but the bottom is they don't show the reality. Actually, the compliance or the certifications, the regulators are bringing in to strengthen our environment and to protect. But what they do is they don't show everything. They are not very. It's actually the regulations. The regulators are like doctors. It has to be a doctor-patient relationship between the regulator and the organizations to show what's the reality and to overcome the challenges that they're facing. If they don't show the reality, even certification bodies cannot do anything and save you anywhere.
Because the audit is always a time-bound activity.
Right.
You see, one company, for example, the regulators providing the kind of a frameworks, that the guidelines and everything, the standards providing what needs to be there in that organization to ensure the right security, right privacy, whatever it is. Now the question is how they are adopting that things into the organization. Then once it is adopted, then the validation. I mean, whether it is effectively implemented or not implemented. That effectively implemented or not implemented, that is where this certification bodies come into the picture, auditing firms, they validate that yes, it is in place. Now the question is, that is very important. So if you ask me, like, this is very important step, because the reason is sometimes organizations they want to do, but they don't know how to do that. For example, now we are talking about the privacy. I want to be privacy compliant, but you see, as a business owner, I may not aware what I am supposed to do to meet that expectations of the privacy principles. For that, I need a kind of a guidelines or the kind of a framework I can adopt it. So this is what these certifications brings, that change. You see, I want to be very good health. If I reached a doctor, they said you have to be fit. Fantastic, but how? That is the question. For that, what I am supposed to do? Everybody wants to be fit, but for that matter, I need to do certain things. Maybe the diet changes and everything, right? The similar way, these frameworks and the different standards will provide you the guidelines or the path to achieve that. So that's where whether it is happening or not happening, that's intermittent checks. Definitely.
Fair enough, and I think you are talking about the regulators, and with this today the demand is increasing, and regulators are also becoming strict more. Because earlier people used to say, if there's no business, then there are no regulations. But as we have seen the recent cases, RBI has strictly said, if no regulation, no business.
No business.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how you see the trend from the industry side, that what is changing and where the regulators are becoming more stricter?
Right. If you say the organizations are saying the regulations are increasing and the ISO standards are coming up here and there, how do we, what are all the different kinds of regulations that I need to comply with? There are lots of challenges that the organization is facing. how many regulations can I comply with? That's a question that rises. But why the regulators are still, getting very stringent about it, and they are exploring lots of areas is based on the threats, because of the breaches, the data breaches, which is increasing day by day. There can be lots of regulations, lots of standards that is getting released on a frequential basis. But the point is how much we are complying with that. Right? And what is the expectation of the regulators to understand and to centralize the efforts is the key. Right? So, one recent regulation that is getting, enforced by Jan 2025 is DORA. DORA is coming up, and it's not a comic character that that comes up in our mind once we think of DORA. It's a Digital Operational Resilience Act. I'm taking that as an example because something which we are not aware. Most of us, I'm not saying all, but most of us are not aware, which we have to get adapted to and which we have to learn, because this DORA regulation is not going to be stopping with the just as a regulation, but it's going to bring in a lot of things centralizing together. Like be it ISO, the Information Security Standard, or SOC 2 reporting, or be it on NIST, it's going to consider all these regulations bringing into the same. And if you're going to comply with DORA, it addresses other regulations as well. But what's the difference that this DORA is bringing in is primarily on 5 key chapters. One is GRC, and there are totally 5 chapters. In that first 3, we are all aware, and which we are all struggling or not, we are working on that. 3 key domains are GRC, and then incident reporting and SOC monitoring, and operational resilience testing. These 3 our organizations are used to doing. But the 4th chapter is on third-party risk management. It might be the first thing that comes to your mind is, no, I'm already doing TPRM, but that's not it, right? Okay. What the regulator's expectation is different. What they are saying is, it's not going to be end with the SOC 2 reporting that usually, share when there is an internal or external audit. It's going to be more of, considering the third party as another business function. If there is going to be any changes or acquisitions or any incident that occurs, that has to be vetted by the client himself. And this is not an easy job, right? As we all know, there are lots of vendors that each and every organization manages in thousands and thousands. And how much we'll be able to monitor and consider that as another business function is a key challenge. So which most of the organizations are coming up, the EBA, ESA, all these European councils are coming in to address the organization's, concerns. Hearing that, recently by July 2024, batch 2 rules have been released. As per that, what, the regulators are, giving a little conveniences that you needn't have to be considering all the third parties, but some, critical third parties without whom you cannot function, or with whose impact your business would be impacted, right? Those third parties you can consider, and you'll have to ensure this is compliant, the DORA is compliant with those vendors. So that's one thing. And the last but not the least is the information sharing. Is the 5th chapter, which we are all used to, communicating internal and external without getting vetted through a designated official. But this 5th chapter is complying, or is mandating that any communication that gets circulated have to be vetted through a designated official, which is definitely not easy. And why it's not easy? Because those all information should be stored in a centralized repository, and it would be assessed by the regulators when they are coming in for assessment. So this is a key thing.
The union. That will make our job more interesting.
Yeah, this is the key emerging things that's coming up.
Adding this, basically what they're talking about, the supply chain risk management. If you see that, entire last 15-20 years, initially it was like a supplier management. Once upon a time, when we are talking about the security, we normally talk about the supplier management. Okay, how many suppliers you have, and whether they're okay or not okay as per their service levels and everything. After that, it became like a third-party service provider management, because what is happening last 10-15 years, if you look at that, the involvement of these third parties or the suppliers has become more and more, because, totally depends on, now the change is like it's a supply chain risk management. Supply chain risk management is not stopped with the next supplier. Even if for example, just to take an example of like I am using a platform or some IT infra or anything, I am taking the services from one supplier and he is taking services from another suppliers. Supplier reviews also come into the picture. So as on today, if you look at any of the organization, they're still the third party vendor risk management, they're still talking about that, but the next level is the supplier risk management.
Exactly.
So that's where very important, because I'm dependent on you and you are dependent on someone. Because of someone is not following certain rules and regulations, then it may impact my business also, right? So at the same time, what madam is also just mentioned, the notification, incident management. You see, now it's not about my incident management. In my organization, if something happened, how I react to that incident, it is under my control. But now something happened, the supplier side, how they manage also, it's important for me, right? Because my entire supply, it depends on their services. Okay, then it will impact my customers. So this is actually going as a chain. That is the reason the supply chain management is very crucial right now.
Is there any where it's going to stop?
No,
Because
No, it's going to expand. I'll tell you how. Because this DORA Act that is coming up, that is getting enforced by Jan, is only for the BFSS sector. Okay, now it's going to be rolling out for other sectors, then it's going to expand, it's not going to stop.
Fair enough. And when actually all this regulation or those acts which we are talking about, when someone actually implement this security assurance program in their organization, what are the few things you think are actually, or most of the times, are overlooked?
Some of, definitely there are organizations want to adapt to the data privacy culture, want to build that. But one thing that the organizations have to change the mindset is data privacy is not a separate function, right? It's a domain under cybersecurity, because they are interdependent on each other and they work together, right? When we have to protect the data, definitely the security controls needs to be enabled in a robust manner to protect the personal data of the individuals, which the data privacy revolves around. And a few things that the organizations fail to understand is cybersecurity team is not a roller coaster of knowing A to Z at a stretch, right? Onboarding the right individuals in the right place is a challenge that they are facing, and which they are not looking into overseeing. They're just overseeing the expectations by not addressing the right requirements. And if we are, adapting to a cloud, for example, when I need to onboard resources, 3 failures that happens in that place is, first, they don't onboard the right set of resources with the right skill sets. And second, the misconfigurations happen without knowing which technology or what needs to be adapted, what needs to be configured. And the third thing is that they fail to understand, what kind of tools needs to be used, what needs to be integrated. That's another, failure point. Last but not the least, another important thing is they don't think about cybersecurity or the security layers to be adapted in the designing phase itself, rather than after migrating the applications or the data to the cloud. And that has nearly ended up in 70% of the organizations have come back to the square one to adapt to the security or enable the security controls before moving to the cloud. Because during this COVID situation, what happened is they were all concerned about the availability of the data. They moved to cloud without even considering as how big threat is that when they are going to work from an open environment. When they're going to work from an open environment, then the predators, it's a big treat for them to go and hack any kind of data, right? But the one thing that they missed is in enabling the security layer while adapting to the cloud. When they missed that, now in the present situation, nearly 60 to 70% of the organizations are coming back to us stating, we need to, enable the security features, or what and all the control that needs to be enabled while we are moving the applications to the cloud. So we can talk a lot about it, but these are some of the misconfigurations.
And Vamsi, you work with many different clients, and we know that they are overlooking. Any examples you'd like to share that where they overlooked and it has actually become a big issue or something?
Okay, let me explain this way. So first of all, for example, if you are talking about the privacy, it's not overlooking, even they are not touched at, they are not looking at all. The reason is the privacy. Okay, let us put it in this way. As an organization, I'm dealing with 2 types of data. Okay, one is the organization data. It could be my commercials, my financial transactions and everything. Second, now when we are talking about the privacy within my organization, what kind of a private personal data which I am actually holding, right? So far when it comes to the security as such, I want to protect this data. by virtue of following some regulator frameworks or adopting some global frameworks, I want to protect because it is directly hit my business. Okay, if I'm not protecting the data, then it will hit my business. Okay, now that is a different security controls are there, and the people, process, technology, and everything. Now coming to the privacy point of view, for doing my business, what kind of a personal data which I'm actually collecting. Now the challenge is that what kind of a data I'm collecting, I'm not fully having the visibility of that. Most of the organization, even if you ask ourselves also, for example, if you ask me last 1 month how much data I shared with someone, my personal data, I can't remember even. The organization is also the same. How they're collecting the various channels, they're collecting the data, why they're collecting the data, this is one of the things which they are totally unaware. Now the first thing first, they should aware of what data they are collecting into that organization. The second is very important aspect what we need to understand. Security can be achieved by placing a perfect solution, whether it is a firewalls, whether it is a network controls, whether it is access controls and everything. Now here privacy is not achieved only through that. It is a bigger than this, because here you have to manage the personals who are actually giving you the data. I mean their personal data. For example, whether it is taking the consent from the respective people, how we are managing the rights, how we manage their breaches if something happen. All these things I am supposed to cover in the privacy. After that, the protection of that. Now the question is the rights management. Someone asked me like, as an organization, hey, what you did with my data, whether you how you are protecting my data. Definitely I have to come back to the data protection level. The first thing first, this is a little higher side, upper side. First we need to understand what data which I am actually collecting, whether in the collecting in the right manner, lawful purpose or something. Okay, and where is this data? This is biggest challenge. Let me explain. Because just forget about this kind of other data. Even when we are doing a lot of payment card industry, there is a requirement called you have to identify the clear card numbers if there are anywhere in your organization. Still people are struggling to identify, where is the data, which location the data. That's only one, maybe the credit card or debit card numbers. Now just imagine, the privacy means it's a personal identifiable information. It could be your date of birth, your name, your email ID, your phone number, your address. There are so many things are there. Now where is this data? This is very biggest challenge for most of the organization. Once they understand where is the data, the second level another challenge is that whether they collected this data lawful purpose or not. After that, again, the kind of whether they have taken the right consent from the people who actually shared the data, right? The rights management, then the protection of the data. So these are the steps. So if you ask me, that's what I mentioned. We just preparing ourselves for this next level. Even now there is a regulations, whether it is in India or outside of India, there are certain regulations came. If you want to adopt that regulations and you have to meet that expectation, then definitely these are the steps you have to follow. That's where the biggest challenge.
And just to add on, you said what's the biggest thing, threat or biggest thing that we saw in this data privacy case. By this Jan 2024, are you aware there is one of the biggest breach that happened, which was called mother of all breaches, Jan 2024, where 25 million customer data were leaked in the dark web. So that's the biggest breach that happened so far, and that breach gave a highlight or a trigger to all the organizations how important is data and how it is getting leaked globally.
Yeah, I think there are many things. Even now we know wherever you have ordered pizzas, everyone knows. So there are many breaches to that. But specifically, I would like to understand from you. So there are two set of organizations. One consult you that they want to actually implement in compliance or regulations or best practices, and one come to you after there is a breach, right? What we should do. In both the cases, how the behavior of the client is differentiated, and what are the best practices, or how your organization generally help them to get the best practices done?
You see, when it comes to the best practices, the preventive side, that definitely we are, when any customer comes to us with the mindset of, hey, we want to, implement the best practice to avoid any such kind of a breaches. That's what actually we advise them. Whether it can be process level, whether it can be the different best practices in terms of the people, or actually we framed certain around the good practices like 30 domains. You take it, for example, supply chain. supply chain or the incident, how to handle the incident, assets, data management. So there are different domains are there, and we advise them to adopt that things to at least ensure they follow the best practices to protecting their business. Okay. Now question is, if they got breached, generally you see after breach our role is very limited, but how to prevent such kind of breaches, like for example, some time back someone mentioned, then we identify the root cause. You see, if there is something happened, why it was happened, so there is a proper root cause analysis. We can we identify that because of this reason you failed in this particular control, because of this one control or multiple controls you failed to meet, then this particular non-compliance happened, or in some incident happened. Now how to avoid that in future? Okay, how to strengthen that control system so that it will not fail. So this is what normally would happen. There is a process called a root cause analysis. Even incidents also, there is a learning from the incident. Before that, once incident happened, find out the root cause. Okay, after finding the root cause, then you have to identify again. There is a different steps, the 5 whys or 3 whys or fishbone. There are different methodologies are there to identify the right root cause, and within that root cause, then once you identify that, then you have to take some kind of a corrective actions. Not only the corrective action, you have to see the effectiveness of that corrective actions in future. Because if I did one time, suppose for example someone is unintentionally they shared some confidential information. That's fine. Root cause is the persons are not aware, for example, or they are not properly trained or something. Then we identify that, we provide the training to that person, but it's not a one time. After that he may forget. Not about that only one person who actually participated or involved in that kind of an incident. It should be applicable to all other people also. So this is what it's again continuous job, that effectiveness of the corrective action needs to be verified again. So these are the things normally after anything happened, this is our role. Now coming to the before, it should not happen in the first place, right? It should not happen means they need to follow certain guidelines, certain process they need to implement, whether it is a technological side, whether it is a people side, whether it is a process side. So this is what normally we normally advise to the organizations. So you should have these many set of practices should be implemented. Then we will tell them, advise them what is the best way to implement certain areas.
But have it ever happened that someone has come to you after the breach and you say, "Oh, I told you before, get the audit done. Now I will charge you double."
Obviously, so many times. You see, so many times it happens. So, let me give you an example. I was doing one, I don't want to name the kind of an organization, but it's out of India actually. Out of India, I was doing some bank audit, bank audit. So I found audit in the sense it's a kind of then I found some people are having access to the production and as well as the development environment. So that manager, not all the people, the manager is having same access things. So that point in time, I told them, because I found this is little critical. There are a lot of other points, but this one is, I never forget, I told them, you see, this guy is having the access to the production environment and he's having the highest privileged access. At the same time, he's in charge of the development teams also. You should actually have put a staging environment or something, restrict his access to that only. Don't give the production environment access. It is not correct. Then obviously the customers, they say, no, we have a lack of resources are not there. I told them, you see, this is my finding. You please work on this and identify some other person. After 3 months, frankly speaking, the person got, the data breached. He called me again. Hey Vamsi, this happened. I told, what has happened? Because they are under some AWS and everything. Though he told me, Vamsi, whatever you said at that point in time, the management is not listen your words. Even I also try to recommend them to keep a separate people. But it has happened. I told them, you see, this is what I was telling you, right? Because what has happened, the entire production data, it came to the development environment, and one of the development person, that laptop, they generally take that, the connections and everything. That data, he take out, the laptop he lost, the entire production data, whatever the live data, it is, someone is found that laptop and everything is open now, So this kind of things, so many times it happens. It's not one time. When we suggest something, because of these are the constraint for the organization, resources constraint or the skill resources constraint, or they don't want to put certain controls, implement time, time is also very important for them. They want everything very quick. So this is how generally it is happening.
That actually suggests us the more of reactive approach than a proactive approach,
Yeah.
right? So, Kavitha, maybe you want to add something to this, that how when we are putting up security assurance, right? What all reactive approach we need to have compared to waiting for these incidents to happen, or maybe also if you have any funny incident where you think this is a common sense, people should be doing it. Something you like to share?
Right. Proactive mostly, right? Not
Yeah.
proactive approaches than to be reactive. First and foremost, what the people have to understand, cybersecurity or data privacy is not a formula applying which will be 100% compliant. That's what they have mindset. If I'm going to be ISO 27001 compliant, then I'm safe. No attack will happen, and I can work freely. But that's mindset has to be changed. And also, whenever we are doing several things, we have to have a realistic picture. You have to take the critical, you can't say, I'm not working on critical data, or my function is working in a very secured environment. You shouldn't work based on assumptions. Assumptions have to change. And when you have to do a RCSA, that they say, risk and compliance self-assessment. You have to self-assess yourself rather than bringing the big four or any, regulators or any assessments to assess you and give you the report. That's not going to help. You have to do a self-assessment and be very, very genuine and do justice to yourself in seeing what is the, maturity level of my organization and what I need to enable and to strengthen my environment before it faces an attack, right? And, what recently that, that I personally recommend is we have to change the kind of assessments that we are doing as well. We've always been subjective in nature. Doing a risk assessment, we categorize as high, medium, and low. And we take it to the management and then say, no, what is high for you is low for me, and what is low for me is high for you, and I'm not happy with this, I don't want to invest, and all these arguments happen. So to change that mindset, we have to adapt to more of quantifying the risks. You have to do a, quantitative assessment rather than doing a qualitative assessment, which is subjective. Change subjective to objective nature. So when you're going to show the management with the numbers, they would be in a better position to take a decision where to invest and, what's the right place to invest as well. If I'm going to show them, this particular control, if this is not going to be enabled when there's going to be an attack, the loss is going to be $1 million, but the investment the amount that will take to mitigate the gap would be 200 or 300K. That will give a clear picture for the management to take a decision and invest in the right place rather than being confused on what is high, what is low, and the turnaround time will be extending, how much time I need to take to invest this or investigate on this and all that stuff. To reduce that, quantify the risk and make it measurable, give it to the management, and you'll be able to take a better decision and be more proactive in nature. That's one thing. And second is always whenever you're working on a SOC system, right? It shouldn't always be monitoring and doing manual efforts, monitoring the systems. And whenever there is a trigger, you take time to go to the L2, then L3. To avoid that, you have to take little proactive approach by using the technology that is growing. We can talk a lot about AI, but taking one instance of that is, if you're going to apply AI and, using AI algorithms, you can do a proactive analysis, behavioral analytics, getting, logs from different sources and do a proactive analysis to see where are the unforeseen risks that you can mitigate well in advance rather than ending up in an incident. So those are few of the things that I would like to highlight.
And as you just touched on the AI and all stuff, we know emerging technologies everywhere, and AI, machine learning, RPAs, a lot of things, coming in picture. Where do you think that these tools actually add more, making the job easy to do more security assurance, or how it is? Is it like you should be afraid of it, or you should be being a companion to them? So your point of view for emerging technologies.
For emerging technologies, taking AI as one which is like growing now, it's like a cat on the wall, that I would say. Because if one side it is positive, it helps in optimizing the effort. There are several benefits that we can talk about. And the other side, it's misleading. Misleading the user, whoever is using AI, in giving them misconception of, the misconception it's giving to the question that we raise or for the request that is placed. So on the benefits, when I talk about, as I was telling about SOC monitoring, right? We can take, do a proactive analysis and take, proactive approaches. And another one that it also helps us in, doing, for example, if you are going to take on language translations, right, we have to invest money, we have to invest people, or onboard people to do the language translation. People who know the language have to sit on the table and do the translation. It takes time, right? But using AI, you can do the language translation in different geos and make it more comfortable for the employees to read in their own languages, rather than onboarding the team to translate in different circumstances. That's one. And the second is, it also helps us in doing a risk assessment. When we are talking about risk assessment, changing the manual efforts to automation, where the impact on probability, it will not limit the boundaries. It goes beyond the boundaries. It takes the feed from various sources and gives you more realistic nature by working with humongous data. Right? Our human capability, manual efforts, I'm not saying we are less capable, but still, handling or working on humongous data takes time, right? Takes time, and there are chances of human errors as well. But when we're going to apply this AI, it's going to be helping us in analyzing humongous data and giving us results in a much less turnaround time. But when you're seeing on the other side of the table, when you're working on this AI platform, it really helps us in automizing the efforts and helping the users to automate the security controls. At the same time, you should not leave the decision making at the AI side, right? Sorry. So when you're adapting to AI and when it gives you a result, there has to be a human intervention to take a decision. Do we have to take the left or right? I'll tell you one example. It might be a little funny as well. Once I was going in my car to an unknown destination. What do we do when we are going to an unknown destination? GPS, right? We use GPS to guide us in reaching the destination. So when I was going through, I can see a shop in front of me, but my GPS says go straight. Will I go straight, believing the system or the GPS control, or will I take right, deviate myself and go? That's where the human intelligence plays a very key role, because how much ever the system might help you, the human intelligence definitely plays a key role. And, with the example that I gave, which I got saved, but there are chances, or there are sequences where you would have seen in the news as well, right? In Bangalore and all the incident happened, hoping that its destination, they got drowned into the water, because technology is always used as an add-on to human intelligence and not as a decision maker.
So what do you say, Vamsi? Human intelligence versus artificial intelligence?
Human intelligence is definitely, because I will give you, it's a funny and scary incident. It happened with me last 2 years back. I was on to a family vacation in Trivandrum. I mean the entire Kerala.
Okay.
So we are actually traveling night. Almost it's 7:30, 8 o'clock, and the GPS is showing destination definitely. And we are, the driver driving, and all of a sudden, it's a very tight route only and very dark, all of a sudden the driver actually stopped the vehicle, Then what we realized, there is a very deep level canal, they're preparing. There is a construction is happening, but no one put the, boards or anything. But luckily, this person saw that, immediately, and just within just few feet away, he stopped the car. Then you don't believe, the 5 minutes we literally shivered. What could happen, if suppose he is not stopped, but the GPS is showing, actually it is showing straight, obviously, but there is a construction happening. There is a deep, almost like, I don't know, in the night time I could not able to, but I know it's very, very deep. Then we have to take another route. So just adding to that, you see, now very important, the AA part what we are talking about. AA is having the both sides, positive and negative, already just madam mentioned. The negative side, if you look at that, definitely it will reduce the, definitely it will perfectly analyze the human behavior patterns. But just imagine, human behavior analysis can be done through AA if you are using in a positive side. But at the same time, it's a technology. If the same technology being used by the malicious people, the same human behavior, they will exploit that. It is happening. It's happening. Now there are a lot of cases are coming into the limelight, wherein somebody is using your voice. So far we have seen only the phishing attacks by sending an email, but not now. It is phishing. The voice. All of a sudden you got a call and someone just like a Gaurav, someone is calling, hey, I'm Gaurav, I'm in store. You see, these humans always, like listen, and now the deep fake, right? I mean, even I don't know that normal people, I don't know whether it's really Gaurav only called me. The voice is same, and the
even the video is the same.
Video is same. So people, I mean, utilize this technology in both sides. A lot of people, what I mean to say, they victims. They become the victims for this such kind of a deep fake or voicing messages. So this is something we need to understand it. One-sided, definitely AI definitely brings some changes in the cybersecurity point of view, where, as already mentioned, the lot of volume of the data can be analyzed and taken some decisions. But at the same time, if you are not using the technology in the right manner, then it will also have the same side effects. Okay, this is what I could see that. Okay, now from the AI point of view, I feel we are in a very, just like a privacy, we are in the very, very beginning stage. Now there should be a lot of regulations to control, even though there are certain standards are there, how the data sets will be utilized properly, and the designing of the technology, how the solutions are coming out. Even today we are not aware, like most of the time. Yesterday only I have seen, somebody, he is very, very famous person, he just put it in a what is that called, X, and he's saying in the WhatsApp there is a meta, automatically it's coming. He tried to put some name searching, and it automatically, it take that word and it is given the entire lesson. So he is asking in the public platform how to disable that, because I don't need it. Right, in your WhatsApp also it is there. So what my point is, it's already getting involved in the personal life also.
Right.
Okay, one sided we are talking about the privacy, one sided the AI is already coming inside.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
they have all the information which we are doing, and I know, so we can keep
Just
on talking.
to add on, did you see, just for the past 1 week, it's becoming a hype in the media. Media is definitely a platform which we all believe, right? Whatever we see, we believe. And a video has been posted by an individual challenging the AI. Like every big leaders are coming with a gun in a supermarket, like on the point gun, right? And they're getting arrested by the police. If it's going to be a normal scenario, we are all going to believe, oh my God, why did the leader do such things, and what is happening? But it's not real. It's using AI. They are manipulating things.
That's what.
So that's a big risk that's coming
any
up.
technology comes, it comes with the two sides. Whether it is a mobile technology, whether it's internet technology, everybody knows that. Now the AI is also one of the technology. It's a kind of knife. You can cut the vegetables. You can also kill the
double-edged sword.
Double-edged sword, right? So how to use that right manner? It is we have to take it individual capabilities.
Okay, fair enough. I think we will keep on talking, but here I have something which I want you to both to do. Let's do a thing like, Vamsi, you do lot many audits, right? So here, let's say for data privacy and security assurance, you are going to do an audit, and Kavitha is going to face you. Okay, so what will be your right expectations from Kavitha? And Kavitha, I will like you to set the right expectations from Vamsi, that if you are coming to audit me, I want you to, at least give me these things, and if you are going to a client like Kavitha, so what will be your expectations? So now it's a face off.
Sir, I mean, I'm not sure, but let me try to. Earlier days, it is like that, because now the barrier of auditor and auditee, actually it is very thin line. Earlier days, when I started my career, that time we have to have 100 questions and you have to answer me all the questions.
Yeah.
Okay, if I ask you like whether you follow this, you have to tell me yes or no, and I will ask the evidence. But now the approach is changed a little bit of, because of this lot of process related. Earlier it was like a checklist. Now it is a more process. So definitely, if I'm going for an audit, and I want to understand basically what is your interpretation of this, whatever the standards are, anything, how you prepared, well you prepared, so that is what actually you want to start. Most of the time what is happens, the auditors, they don't have the full clarity in terms of, like, generally somebody will sit, they only have the limited visibility of what they're doing. They can't see the entire picture. So generally that is where we start with the kind of a management was, you tell me what is your expectations, what you want to achieve, then accordingly whether your processes are in place or not in place. Sometimes process in place, but there are different ways. So yes, if you ask me as an auditor, Auditor, I always find, if the auditee is better known what they are actually doing, it gives me more idea, and we can, during the assessment process, we can also help them. You see, we don't do the consultancy or anything, but we can advise them how to do it in a better manner. So this is what my approach.
Okay, fair enough. I feel that nervousness on your first face. Telling Kavitha, okay. So Kavitha, what will be your expectations from Vamsi if he's coming to your office?
Right.
What do you
So
think?
as an auditee, I really want that to be done in a phased manner, in 3 phases basically, like pre-audit, during audit, and post-audit. So pre-audit, primarily what I would expect from the auditor is, to let us know what is the scope. Definitely, I want my pan-India level, branches to be certified with ISO 27001. For that, you have to let me know what are all the expectations, what we need to keep it ready, and the guidelines to follow, and what kind of evidence you will be overlooking.
Required.
And would you be doing a real-time assessment, like taking some samples and asking us to do an drill or something like that, or it's going to be just going through our documents and evaluating them pre-drill? And during the drill, you'll have to let us know what kind of questions you would be raising. Is it an open-ended question or a closed-ended, or what kind of clauses that you would be covering, so that we would be prepared by ourselves. And post-audit, before you release the report, I would definitely expect you to send me a draft report with anything non-compliance or compliance, so we can sit, discuss, and finalize the report before it gets published.
I totally agree.
My expectation.
Agree with you, the first part and the last part. But the intermittent part, while execution, you see, pre-audit, generally what happens is that we normally, generally as an any auditing company, it's not about only, my company or myself. Generally, the pre-audit is like, we will send the kind of audit plan, the scope, you see, the scope is already defined by the organizations. Okay, I cannot, as a third party, I cannot decide what is the scope of your organization to assess. That is already fixed. Then yes, whom we want to interact, what kind of a people we want to interact and everything, that is generally happens in the pre-audit stage. Now, the expectations we will put it, that objective. Now the question is, the second question is a little tricky. The open-ended questions and the closed-ended, it's my technique. Sometimes it depends on the auditee, the person who sits, sometimes it is auditing technique. We follow 19011, the standards. This is like any auditor. If he's a real-time, real auditor, they follow certain guidelines. What is whether it is a forwarding, trace forward, trace backward, or the open closed questions. And so these are some of the techniques we use always.
I agree with you, sir. But why, as an auditee, I will only expect to make it more easier and pick the right person there. It's close-ended.
It is like, question leaking the question paper.
But as an auditee, I can expect that only, so that I can pick the right team.
He has just told the expectations. Maybe you fulfill or not, that's up to you.
The textbook is there already. That is the standard. The textbook is already there. Our interpretation, textbook is nothing but the standard or the framework or the regulatory requirement guidelines. This is the textbook. Normally, what happens? I, as an auditor, I feel auditees already they understand the textbook, and there may be now the point is that real time when we are auditing, we want to see how effectively they implemented by asking certain questions. So the way, like for example, let me put up this way: when I went to assessment. I will tell you the both sides also. First, I will tell you as an auditor. So generally, we will ask, do you have any idea of your policy? So if the other person, they start thinking, or maybe they're thinking like an ice outside. What is the policy? It means that the awareness is not there. This is how actually we observe that even the facial expressions of the people.
So you apply AI there, behavioral analytics.
No, and sometimes sometimes it also happens when we ask for certain document and generally they say, okay, I will bring it in 5 minutes. Then after 15-20 minutes also is not coming out. So it means that the document controller, there is some problem. Whether they don't have the centralized documents or anything. So these are the certain approach we follow to understand really how. Suppose if that is the case, if I am giving the right question, okay, this particular person, I will ask you about the policy, then definitely he will by heart that policy. He's prepared for everything. So then that's the question is the effectiveness of the control implementation, the awareness of that implementation.
See, that's why I asked open-ended or close-ended. If it's close-ended, I'll tell my team, tell yes for everything. And then no.
I think that's the way. So now let me take you to the next level where I will like you to talk to my audience directly, okay? Because I know I don't want you to have the fight here.
No, not right. We are exchanging.
Okay, yeah, I love that session, and this is really interesting. And this is a new genre which we have just added. Face off. Okay, so yeah, we will create a great teaser as well. Face. But anyways, coming to the last segment, and I frankly loved talking to you. And here, Vamsi, so I will be putting you directly in front of my audience. Let's say there's an organization who has just acquired some PII, and they wanted to have the a security assurance around that, and they were looking forward for some advice from you. So, what you will like to tell them that how they should start, what are the best practices, what framework they can follow for a set of organizations. So, my audience is all yours.
Okay, great. So let me explain. If any organization they acquired some PII, that's what we are discussing. The point number one, let us go through. It will take some time to digest what I am explaining. Point number one. This data you acquired or you are capturing from the people, whether there is a purpose for this or not, that is something you have to first identify that. Once the purpose is identified, as I mentioned, what kind of a data you are collecting and whether it is a lawful purpose only, that is very important. And also there is a proper business justification you have to put up. Without proper business justification, it means you are not collecting the data lawfully. Okay, this is point number one. Once you understand, yes, this is the data which I required, or whether it is a personal data or any data, this is required for my business purpose, and I am giving some sort of product or services or any such kind of benefits to the data principles in terms of data principles. Okay, what is that purpose? You have to define very clearly. Second one is, when it comes to the privacy, first of all, how you are collecting the data. For example, if you are collecting the data, forced consent or a voluntary consent, there are different techniques, but the point is that any law or any regulation which talks about whether you are informing the principal, the data principal, why you are collecting this data, what you will do with this data, and whether you are sharing with some other third parties or whether you are just stored for certain purposes only. So all these things you have to give them the information, right information to the people who are actually giving you the data. Now the second one is, if at any point in time the principal wants to understand what you did with this data, you should have the proper mechanism. That's what we call it's a rights management. You have to provide the rights management, whether it can be the grievance addressal systems, or if they want to reach out to understand what you did with this data and etc. So the point number one, there are three key steps. One is understanding your business. For this business, or what the services you are providing to the different people, what kind of a data you require, you should have the business justification for this data. Now, how you are collecting this data, this is very important. While collecting, the consent needs to be taken, whether it is a major, minor. There are a lot of parameters, but consent management is also very important. And at the same time, not only taking the consent, even you have to provide the provision. You have to provision that the principals can take out the consent also at any point in time. They don't want to continue with that. Okay, this is a consent management. The third step is rights. During this period, what kind of provisions you are providing to the principals to reach out to you for any issues. Maybe the changing the data of the personal data, or update the data, or removal of the data, whatever it is. That rights management is part. After this rights management, now the question comes, now you are actually taken the responsibility to protect, because this is also one of the important thing, because I am actually sharing the data with you, so it is your responsibility to protect my data. You are not supposed to do certain things, like for example, you are not supposed to, without my consent, you cannot share this data with someone else, because I actually shared the data with you. It means it is your responsibility to protect my data. Now the protection point of view, yes, that is the information assurance will come into the picture. Okay, now because of the kind of a data, now lot of data is on the digitization, electronic data, right? It can be goes anywhere. So how you are protecting my data within the boundaries. That's where you have to define, hey, this is the data, this is where the data is lies, and I am protecting this data by defense on depth, mechanisms. There are a lot of security concepts are there. So how to protect the data, it is your responsibility. Now that is where the security actually come into the picture. That is either is a confidentiality or the integrity or the availability, because as a principal I can come back to you any point in time, I want to ask my data back. For that matter, you should have the availability of the data, and I want my data, no one supposed to alter it. That is the integrity will come into the picture. I don't want this data to be published somewhere. That is where the confidentiality will come into the picture. If you see the security as a domain, the security, all the base minimum, the CIA triangle, the confidentiality, integrity, availability, this is only can happen when you are actually protecting by doing different solutions. People process technology, again the people process technology, that is where this 27001 all the different frameworks will come into the picture. So this is how you have to implement the control mechanisms to protect my data. So this is from the starting from the collection of the data to protecting the data. This is how you should
Amazing. I think this piece is gonna work for everyone. It's gonna be viral, right? You have given it strategically. You can do this way. Awesome. And I always love, whenever you give that, I will say the process or the gap. So this is really to the point, and it gives an elaborated way that people can actually use and consume, right? So same way, Kavitha, I will come to you, and not for the organization, but let's say someone applying for a job to that organization. Maybe they are a fresher, or they want, because as a fresher everyone wants to talking about offensive side or hacking, but now the risk advisory and privacy is a new domain people want to explore. Let's say someone wants to start their career in assurance or the data privacy side. What kind of advice you have for them? So now my audience is all yours.
Cybersecurity and data privacy is a new talk of the town, and all of them are getting a key interest in learning and growing in this platform. But good that you have a passion to learn and grow in that platform. But one underline is that you have to learn continuously. Continuous learning is the key for success. So when I started off in cybersecurity, it was 1:10. I used to be the only women in the entire team where where there was a thought in everybody's mind that cybersecurity or data privacy, all this is only owned by men and not women. Women cannot work in a very networking environment because they're limited capability. So we'll have to first break the ceiling of ourselves and the others. When you have an interest to grow in a platform, you have to not keep the interest to yourself and keep wondering what to do, and you will not become a head of an organization or be a rapid fire in growing in any platform. You have to grow in a staged manner, and there is a term care, right? Care is something that you have to keep in mind when you want to get into any platform, not specifically cybersecurity, anything that you want to adapt to. Care. C is for create. Create that goal within yourself. Create the goal and create that vengeance. Create that hunger within yourself that I want to do something as a differentiator within others who are working with me. And then you'll have to assess yourself. When I have to get into this platform, what do I have to do? Explore the opportunities. When you're exploring the space to learn, networking is important. You have to get into the key learning platforms, know people, talk to them, understand, get lots of knowledge. Acquiring knowledge is very important. Then you will have to, you have to really work hard to, expecting results. Results is the third thing that you have to look into. I have created the passion, I have done the networking, I have to reach out to people. What do I have to do for getting the right results? For that, you will have to equip yourselves with the right set of skill sets. For that, you have to get certified. I'm not saying certification defines your knowledge, but certification is something like a label. When you study from first standard to 10th and you do your board exams, your 10th plus 2, your college, all these certificates are important not to test your knowledge but to check your backgrounds, right? The similar manner, certifications play a key role in showing the identity of yourself. So you have to keep learning and get your identity and show that in the results. And the last one is E. E is nothing but explore. Explore the opportunities and reach out to the right people. And continuous learning is a journey, and it is a never ending. And you have to, what is today a trend in cybersecurity is tomorrow's history. And you shouldn't feel like I did, ISO 27001 and I know cybersecurity, and why am I not getting opportunities? Because doing only a certification is not important, but you have to keep exploring and keep educating yourself to explore and grow in this platform. And I hope to see all of you as future leaders in nearly. Thank you.
Amazing, awesome, and I think that's a new definition which you have given, that how people actually should adopt for it. But yeah, thank you for being on the show. And okay, guys, I think I hope you have loved this episode. I'll see you next week. Till then, take care, be safe. Bye bye.